The first thing I want to get into is this cover. You probably don't want to do this too much, but I've just gently kind of opened the book up, and I mean gently, taking good care to do this, but I thought it'd be quite cool for you to see just how amazing this cover is. Now, I'm just shooting this on my phone. It's nothing, I've got an amazing camera or anything. It's not a bad phone, but this just pops. Both the illustration and also this color, this kind of aqua marine color, is absolutely gorgeous. And it's part of having a coffee table book. This is a hardback book, and it's just, ekes quality really in terms of the overall feel. It's, obviously a book you're going to read, you're going to get into, but it's also just nice to display and have on your shelf or wherever you're going to put this stuff. I've got my game kind of system shelf thing here. I have some areas for books and also LPs and various other things. So I might keep it down here. I have also another little console area downstairs. But anyway, back to this cover. The actual character detail is amazing. I mean, it's just so... I think they kind of improve every time. This is the Go Straight book. Again, Repro was really good, but this is something else. I don't know what kind of method they use to get this kind of pop, but it really is insane. So I'm just going to take you in so you can see the level of detail and just that colour again. There's the spine. The finishing on this book, I mean, I used to work in print and things like that back in the day, really even, showing my age now, in the early 90s, and I still love print. I love the smell of print. I love the smell of a book. Maybe I'm odd. I don't know about you. But this book, just when you open it up, it just ekes quality. So I cannot reiterate just how good this comes across. It's got a really nice feel to it as well. So I'm just going to pop out and then we're going to get into the book. But I just wanted to show you that cover. And it really is amazing. Obviously, it's an official SNK licensed product between Bitmap Books and SNK. And really, I'm sure SNK want to ensure that their brand comes across so well. And from the cover, as you can tell, just showing you, I mean, I don't need to talk about it. You can see it is pretty wonderful. Very excited today to review this latest book from Bitmap Books. You can see here in all its glory, we have the ultimate, if you like, I'll say it doubly twice, King of Fighters book. What's really interesting with Bitmap Books, you can see a couple of others here. We've got Go Straight, which is a recent one that's come out. You can see the link below to the video I did on that, and also the Game Boy book. And there's others, as you know, or maybe you don't know, so check them out. Obviously, there's a link below if you want to see more. But really, Bitmap Books have come on a great deal. I think their first book now, it must have been out a good maybe 7-8 years ago now. And that was the Commodore 64 book, if you remember it. And they went on to do so many other books, from the Amiga book to the Master System. But what we're getting into now is something very interesting with their range of books. Very specific titles, very specific games, in fact. And if you're a real enthusiast, a fan, that just gives you that little bit of extra depth and extra detail and real information and insight. And so that's what we're going to tell you about with this book. I've just been reading it over the last week or so, getting into it. I've taken it out of the box already. I don't want to do that bit. If you want to see some of the unboxing stuff, then in fact the previous book here, I showed you all the packaging, and you should know, if you haven't seen Bitmap Books before, their packaging is awesome. The books come in a fantastic order. The corners of the book you can see here are excellent. And that's very important, because nothing worse than when you get a book particularly and it's bashed on the corners or the pages are lifted. But their packaging is excellent, so you can check that out in the previous video, because it's all pretty much consistent quality throughout. So what I'm going to do with this book, I'm going to give you an overview. I don't want to spoil it completely because obviously you might go and check it out yourself, or you just don't want to know all the detail. So I'm going to give you the kind of heads up on all the kind of important stuff and take you through it all, really. So let's get into it. So let's get into the book itself. Like I said, this is going to be more of an overview. I don't want to show you every single page, so I'm going to skip parts. So as you come in, you get the nice, clean logo type of King of Fighters, obviously with SNK, and the typeface throughout is really nice, and it's split into really simple kind of sections. So you got an intro, there's a forward, there's quite a bit of history. As you know, there's a lot to this book. It's not just loads of pictures. There really is some content and some substance to it, and it's writing and editing is top class. So it's been written by Robert Jones and Christopher Resser, and Steve Jarrett has edited it as well. And I haven't read the book back to back, but I have gone into quite a lot of detail, and I must say this history section was really quite fascinating for me. I've got some understanding more as a kind of player of King of Fighters, don't really know some of the backstory, so that really was good. Then you get into game art, which is beautiful, character art, and key art, and then what's really nice, again, with some of these books, Big Mac books, they get interviews that you haven't heard or seen before. So yes, there you go. There's some of the other people involved. I'm not going to read every single one of them out, but obviously big up to those people who got the book to where it is at. So the forward is really cool because it's from the SNK lead producer of the game. I'm not going to try and pronounce the name. It's just not going to happen for me. So forgive me. It's probably better I don't. It's more respectful maybe. But there's a nice intro here. It explains obviously the origins from 1994, how it came about and how it evolved over time. So I'm not going to read that out in detail, but a nice little kind of end note, which was King of Fighters will continue to evolve into the future, producing more and more art as it does so. So that's really nice. It's a continuum of a game that really is coming up to 30 years old now. When you think about that, you might be watching this video in the future, so it's even more, but, we're in 2022 now, and this game, when you play the, original games even, they hold up amazingly. And obviously there's reasons for that because of the systems it was on and where it came from. But this is where we get into it here. So there's a nice double page spread on the history section. Again, that lovely pop of colour and really cool little detail there on the characters. So yeah, lots of history, background from the origins, from the beginning, explained about kind of how the arcade influenced very much the whole kind of process, what was around at the time. I remember, 90s arcades really was quite a different vibe. There was, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Virtua Fighter, a lot of fighting games. It really was like a revolution. If you're around at that time, I was in my kind of actually early 20s when King of Fighters came out, bizarrely. I'm really showing my age now. And yeah, I used to frequent the arcades. Some arcades had bars in them, Trocadero. We were trying to think whether that was around even at that point. Probably was. My memory's fading. But definitely used to go to some arcades even locally, and they had a lot of Street Fighter. Here we go. A lot of Street Fighter. Not necessarily the first one, but the second one anyway. So it talks about how, at the time, games like, Fatal Fury, Street Fighter 2 had such a kind of influence, but also kind of, competitor, I suppose, really to what was King of Fighters. So there's a lot of information. I'm not going to spoil things because there's some interesting insights there as well. And kind of then, how it proceeded to be where it's at with King of Fighters 94, which is really the game that for me I remember personally. So that's what, you get into the detail. Some really cool kind of artwork and adverts as well that comes across in this history piece. This is a really smart image, which is the Neo Geo Land amusement parks. So, I mean, imagine just playing there. That would have been absolutely amazing. There's some nice kind of attack system, character design, some sketches there. Again, I'm not going to show you every little piece because that's going to show you the book. So I'm just going to zoom out there. Again, got the, I think this is an ad, Japanese ad for Evolution. And this is now past the history bit. So I didn't want to show every single page, but it was a really good piece on the history, which I think is kind of why you would buy this book, really, because you want to know the detail. If you're a fan, yes, you can go on the web, but there's stuff in there in terms of the narrative and the content, which is really good to get into. Now the art. Now, King of Fighters, obviously, it is not intrinsically, I suppose, an art game. You don't kind of go, okay, I'm going to buy this for art, but the art is just superb. There are games that are renowned for art, obviously, a lot of RPGs, very much so, adventure games, but King of Fighters just has some superb kick-ass art. This is 94, the sizes of the characters on screen, especially, I think, kind of made that happen. As you can tell, it really was mind-blowing at the time, because to get that level of speed in a game, and obviously the character design and the backdrops all in one, it really was quite astonishing. Now, obviously, there were other games, that around at the time, Mortal Kombat, the Street Fighter 2s, the Tekkens, I could go on, and you had some of the beat-em-ups and things like that. But this did have something quite unique, and Neo Geo, obviously had a lot of these games on it, and the Neo Geo was again a sought after console. It was like the panacea of consoles, because you would play games like this on it, and it was arguably just like the arcade, and obviously you had all the peripherals, the sticks themselves. 94, so this is the game I locked into my brain. Got all the amazing characters, as you can see here. So I'm just going to take you through a few spreads. There's a lot on 94, which is really cool, because that for me is kind of what I associate, I suppose, personally, having remembered it at the time. I did have a friend who had a Neo Geo. I didn't. He had a Mega Drive Japanese, and I got one of those, but I just could not get the Neo Geo at the time, because basically it's too expensive. So yeah, but it's an aspirational product, and this, just seeing this here, it's kind of, you don't have to own all the games to get into this. It's it's like a lot of things. It's really interesting just to see what the games came and developed from and to, and you never know, you might pick something up later. So really just progresses through. I mean, again, just the character art is just so kind of iconic, really, of the time. So we're getting into 96 now, and the game started to evolve, the graphics started to evolve, it got more kind of personality as things progressed into 97. And you might say, oh, well, surely it was just the same every time, they just updated it a bit. No, it didn't. The levels, the characters, the detail progressed, and they brought new things in, made it faster. It is really just superb in terms of the history and the detail. And we're into 2000, already into 2000, so halfway through the book, and you can tell already, this is the key art area is huge. It is massive. So if you ever want anything to do with King of Fighters, this really does take you through it. So the intro elements, I think, and the kind of cutscenes of King of Fighters are very famous. So this is the King of Fighters 2001, which is the kind of intro scene. Again, look at that colour pop. It really does sing. It is amazing. So I'm not going to take you through every bit of the key art. I'm just going to flick to the next section. But I think you get the general idea. It, it's something that you can just sit back, enjoy, almost relax to. And then we're getting into the characters, which is just like insane. The level of detail here is amazing. So this is the character art. And we have all the characters. So, some are well known more than others. Obviously Andy Bogard, Chris, Blue Mary, in fact, Heavy D, yeah. But there's some unusual ones in there, some that you might not know about. Terry Bogard is probably, one of the most famous as well. And literally, what are we talking about? 288, 412. You got like 120 pages with these characters. So if there's anything you need to know about the characters, Mr. Big, obviously, flick to that, you will find it here. So there he is in all his glory, Mr. Big. He's the boss fighter, if you didn't know that, obviously. But yeah, maybe it isn't so obvious you haven't played it, but yeah, Mr. Big, he's going to be a boss, isn't he, with a name like that? So, just between, in fact, 398, I'm just going to go to, obviously, maybe not for everybody, but just the iconic character, really, which is Terry Bogard, the main protagonist of Fatal Fury. You may or may not know that. Probably most people watching this do. And obviously he's the older brother of Andy and kind of uses like mixed styles, if you like. I mean, I don't know, it's not JKD, but he, mixes it up, should we say. But it's the kind of thing about Terry Bogard is, what he wears. It's the cap, the Fatal. There you go, Fatal Fury cap. It's just come out there. You see that there. Pretty cool. Must get a cap like that. And obviously the star kind of detail on the back of his kind of waistcoat. Vice, could go on. Absolutely superb, amazing detail on the characters, I have to say. Key art. If there's not enough art at the beginning, you've also got the illustration art here. So it's, in terms of each title, from 94 onwards, right up to kind of recent, you've got a good kind of 60 pages on all the key art. I'm not going to spoil this because this really is a cool section, and stuff in here I personally haven't seen before. Some really simple designs, but also some absolutely, look at that, amazing illustration here, which is just, again, by Sinkiro. Wow, that really does look cool. It's almost, that would be a great poster for me. So, as I say, I'm not going to show every bit, just showing you a few pieces here for purposes of the review, but real mix of different styles. If you're into illustration and art, there's some beautiful kind of variations between what you're seeing. Be careful with the pages here. And then we've got the interviews. So just right at the end here, we've got a range of interviews. There was 6 interviews, I think. And obviously the key part of making a game is the developer, who's involved, how it came about, the planner of the game, right through. I think we've got all different types of folk who are involved in making these games contributed. Again, without these, I guess, obsessive people, the programmers, obviously, King of Fighters 94, if that hadn't been a success, then we wouldn't be where we are today, really. So it's really interesting insights there about, how the people got into the industry from a development point of view, from a music point of view. how the music played, again, a key part because of the Neo Geo and the sound chip, and how that was such a dramatic piece at the time. I'm going to finish at the end, so I skipped to the end. There's a great little end graphic here, which I wanted to just finish on. So closing the book now. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I really enjoyed this book. I'm getting a bit more time into this, and probably start playing King of Fighters, which is kind of part of some of these books. It gives you inspiration. I read this one recently, The Go Straight. I'm really into my beat 'em ups at the moment. So yeah, this is another inspirational book for anybody who's into King of Fighters or SNK or just kind of games history, really. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I say all the information about the book and the other kind of stuff that they do at Bitmap is in the description below, and hope you found this useful, and see you on the next video.